Astro PM. In this video tutorial, we're going to walk through how to set up and use the Astro PM software. Uh, it's a pretty complex piece of software that does a lot of things, and we use a couple of third-party tools. And so I want to show you how to get the most out of the software, and some of that includes doing a couple of little tweaks at the beginning to get your setup running okay. And so let's take a look at that. First off, we have the main sections here. We have equipment, framing, projects, tools, and an app hub. And you can see here I have the Sky Atlas open. This is Sky View. We've got a lot of stars in here. I've got a lot of things going on. And so I want to make sure that you're able to get the basics running. So the first thing you do after you install it is go to Settings. And you might be on the free trial, and that's fine. But we need to still probably do a couple of setup tools. The first one is to install the star catalog. I would highly recommend you come down here to the star catalog section. Install this 50 meg download. It's off of our servers. It's got 2.5 million stars in it, and that will give you in Skyview at least all of these stars you can click on, and you can see that they're actually named up here with all their actual information. And so this is one of the surveys you can use, which is our default survey. We also have DSS2, which is available, and that's going to give you a lot of rendered panels. But if you want to use just a default sky survey that's fast and quick, I suggest you at least get our catalog installed. You'll use it quite heavily, and later on we might install a deeper star catalog as we build that. So that's the first thing I would install. Let's see, another thing I would install here is your imaging root folder. Now, the idea is that this is a project management tool. So you have a local computer you work on, your desktop station, and it has a local folder with all your projects inside of it. And then you might have remote folders, you might not. You might have those, you may not, just depends. I know people with multiple remote locations. And so if you're going to sync all your remote files to your local computer, it's nice to have them in some kind of structure. And so what we want here is just to set up a root path. Now, that could be its own drive. It might be a folder you use. And what we do is when you create a new project, we automatically put the site, scope, and camera as the folder. The target is the subfolder. And then we have several subfolders that we create. Just this basic tiered folder structure to keep all of your projects organized in the same pattern. So it's nice to have that for Astro PM to manage. When you create a new project, it will just auto create the folders for you in that structure. And you can choose to turn this on or off depending on your needs, but this is the idea behind the software, is to allow you to create these projects, have a local folder, and then automatically sync your remote folders to it. So I highly recommend you at least set this root path. The other thing I would highly recommend is we have several pieces of software over here you can connect to. I would at least do ASTAP. ASTAP is free to use, and you can grab it off their website. Just do a quick Google search for ASTAP. If you've never installed it, it's nice. It also has a big star catalog. I would recommend you set that up. I think their current star catalog is D80, which is pretty big, but I highly recommend you do that. And this is going to be used throughout the system for plate solving. We dive in and use ASTAP's plate solving abilities heavily. So when you have subs in our sub inspector, or you're annotating an image, or you're using some of our calculators, you're going to want to be able to plate solve your image real quick. And then we got the exact focal length and all the information we need for that. You can do a backup one, which is astrometry.net. You can go out there, sign up for an account, get a free API key, just paste that in here. And then what it allows you to do is solve using astrometry. It'll upload the image. It's a little slower. It takes 30 seconds, a minute, a couple minutes sometimes to actually plate solve an image, but it's nice to have as a backup in case ASTAP does fail. So I would, if it was me, they're both free. I would set both of these up as good tools, and you'll see that throughout the system as you do that. If you go into Image Annotator, and you open an image, you can plate solve it with ASTAP or Astrometry.net. So those two I would do. The CCD inspector is not needed. Um, if you have it installed, you have a license, you have to pay for this. You can install it, and all we do is we simply link to it from Sub Inspector. So it's nothing that really is needed. Stellarium, this is kind of nice. Sometimes you're in Skyview if you're used to Stellarium, and you're looking around in Skyview and you find some targets that you like, and you just want to look at it over in Stellarium. You can load to Stellarium using the remote control feature. So if you're used to that workflow, you could set this up. It tells you right here how to set up the remote control plugin. As long as that's running, you can sit there and use the button directly out of Skyview and start that. So just another feature. You don't have to set it up. It's definitely optional at that point. So these are some of the basics. That's what I would at least do in setting up your system. Get the star catalog. I would at least set up a basic route path. I would set up ASTAP and astrometry, maybe Stellarium. App Hub is interesting. This is just a way to do shortcuts to your programs. So if you've got a bunch of astronomy programs you use frequently, you could simply put them in here and they'll show up in your App Hub over here. And so it just makes one location for you to get all your software and accessible. It doesn't integrate them in any way. It just simply makes a shortcut for them and links them so you have one place to load all your tools if you need to. Couple optional things down here too, just to talk about in our settings, is our catalogs. These are catalogs that we have right now, and they are going to grow. And so you can decide which ones you want to turn on and off. By default, I would just turn them all on because you can manage these actually inside of the tools. So we use the catalogs heavily in two places right now. One of them is Skyview. If you come in here to overlays, you can see I have all those catalogs showing up here. And you can see I can turn them on actually individually here in Skyview. So what the settings does is it simply hides them from all the tools. I kind of envision this getting and growing really large. So if you feel like you want to turn them off and just have a couple of catalogs, when you go to Skyview, it's just going to shorten this list. You can still control them from here. So right now, I would probably encourage you just to turn them all on. They're also going to show up in our image annotator. So you'll see the catalogs here. And as you load images and you want to annotate or look at the objects inside of your image, you can turn the catalog on or off here as well. So this is more of a global catalog on or off, and then you can do it individually on the panels. So just so you know, that's kind of what the settings are, though. You can, do some exporting and importing if you want to move computers. But I think the settings are pretty important in here. You really have to make a couple of important connections. So do that when you first start up. Then I'm going to do a couple of other videos on equipment, framing, projects, tools, and those will dive more in depth into that setup, because after we get the settings here, we do need to go in and start with equipment setup. That's really important to get our observatory location, our telescope, our camera. All of those settings have to be input in order to make things work really good for your projects and for your planning. And so uh, I will talk about those in another video. So I'm going to try to keep this one fairly short. Those are the settings. Any questions, don't worry about always email us if you need to, um, or watch this again. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.